Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are jumping right in. There's a huge stack of source material on the most anticipated AI launch of the year. OpenAI has just unveiled GPT-5.1, and they are claiming this is not just another version number. They're calling it the start of a different chapter in smart conversations.
That's right. And we've been poring over the launch announcement, all the technical papers, and our mission today is really to cut through the marketing spin. For you, the listener, we need to figure out, is this just an incremental speed bump, a faster chat window, or does it fundamentally change how we actually interact with these language models?
The stakes feel pretty high because OpenAI themselves set the tone. They described this release not as an upgrade, but as a major corrective step. And that phrase alone, it tells you everything you need to know about the problems they were facing with the last one.
Oh, absolutely. That phrase, major corrective step, is just fascinating. It's such a candid admission that GPT-5, for all its hype, had some serious recurring issues. When a company like that uses the word corrective, it implies the stability of the previous model was genuinely at risk.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Let's talk about that instability. We all knew GPT-5 was powerful, but what were the holes in its armor that made this 5.1 update a necessity, not just a nice to have?
Well, the feedback from researchers and their high-tier users was really consistent. The model struggled anytime a task required what they called intellectual stamina. It was great for, say, quick creative tasks, but it would have these catastrophic failures in 3 specific areas. The sources name them explicitly.
And what were those?
First, complex math problems, anything that needed precise multi-step calculations. Second, high-quality, dense scientific writing. And third, maybe the most frustrating thing for professional users was deep logical analysis, anything requiring that long-chain reasoning.
Right, so if you asked it to summarize a historical event, it was brilliant. But if you asked it to argue the causes that led to that event, it would start making these subtle, weird, logical mistakes.
Exactly. And users were left thinking, okay, this tool is amazing, but I can't really trust it with the hard stuff.
The trust was broken.
The trust in the stability of the intelligence, yeah. It was undermined by that inconsistency. And for any business relying on these models for serious work, that inconsistency has a real economic cost. That's why this 5.1 update is centered not just on more intelligence, but on reliable intelligence. The whole promise here is stability, better responsiveness, and finally, customizing the conversation beyond that, that default AI voice.
Okay, that flexibility and turn controls is definitely something we need to get into because that changes everything. But first, how did they actually engineer this reliability? Because they didn't just release one model, right? They released a dual system, Instant and Keen.
And what's really remarkable here is that both of these new versions, Instant and Keen, they're available immediately to all users.
All users, so free plan as well.
Free and paid, yeah. Which signals they see these improvements as foundational, not just a premium feature.
Okay, so let's talk about GPT 5.1 Instant first. This is the default. If you open a chat window, this is what you're going to get. The big selling points seem to be speed and, I guess, approachability. They say it's faster, warmer, and smarter.
Instant's goal is basically to perfect the execution of everyday tasks. It's optimized to understand and act on instructions right away, so you don't have to keep rephrasing your prompt. It's about reducing that friction. It's the model that makes everything feel quick and intuitive for, say, 80% of your daily queries.
But then there's Keen, GPT 5.1 Keen. And this is the one OpenAI seems to think is the true technological jump forward, the one that addresses those failures in math and logic we talked about.
Precisely. Keen is where they've put all the focus on those long-chain logical capabilities. If Instant is the friendly, quick assistant who knows everything by heart, Keen is more like the professional researcher who actually sits back and thinks about the problem before answering.
And that's the big trade-off, isn't it? Historically, the smarter the answer, the longer you have to wait. How did Keen break that?
This brings us to the core innovation, which is this mechanism of self-assessment. Keen doesn't just start generating an answer. First, it determines the required level of internal analysis for your specific query. And that is, that's really the big deal here, technologically speaking.
So it's almost like it has this lightweight meta model running on top that judges the complexity of the question first.
That is the perfect analogy. If your query is simple, like, what's the best way to make toast? Keen answers immediately. It uses minimal resources, no overthinking. But the magic happens when the query is complex. Let's say comparing 3 economic theories and predicting their impact.
Okay, what does it do then?
That self-assessment triggers a shift. It's like it hits a research mode button. It enters a deeper level of analysis, maybe using more internal thought chains or something, before it generates a single word. The result is a tiny bit more latency on that one heavy query, but it ensures what they call a more stable and mature answer. It avoids those logic failures we saw before.
Which sounds incredibly practical. You don't have that frustration of waiting for the AI to overthink a simple question. But when you give it a real challenge, you know it's actually committing the resources it needs.
Exactly. It connects efficiency directly to performance. It's not just having the knowledge, it's knowing how much intellectual effort to apply to the request. A human expert doesn't spend 5 minutes calculating 2 plus 2, but they will spend hours on a critical document. Keen is starting to mimic that.
All right, let's shift gears completely, away from the logic and into style and communication. We have to talk about the personality overhaul. This feature, letting you control the tone and attitude of the AI, this is what's really captured everyone's imagination.
It's a huge shift because it recognizes that the context of a conversation is just as important as the content. That default, slightly sterile AI tone just doesn't work for every situation. Now you're in control.
And they didn't just give us a couple of options. It's a whole palette of tones.
It really is. Beyond the standard default, you can set the conversation to be friendly, effective, professional, explicit, humorous, sarcastic, or serious scientific.
Wow. Okay, let's stop on sarcastic for a second. That just feels like a massive technical challenge. Why would anyone need a sarcastic AI?
I think it shows they're chasing true behavioral mimicry. Sarcasm, irony, these are complex linguistic things that rely on subtext and, what's not being said. If the model can reliably pull off sarcasm that feels authentic, that shows an incredibly deep grasp of human communication.
Right. And beyond just the fun factor, the professional tone is clearly aimed at businesses who need messages for, a boardroom or a client. The goal seems to be making it feel closer to your own personality or your specific work.
It's tailoring the output, not just to the data, but to the person who's going to read it. And the sources also mention they're testing even finer controls, tools that will let you adjust the degree of brevity, how concise it is, and the overall warmth in its responses.
So we're moving toward a dial, not just a button. You can modulate its personality.
Exactly. And the early feedback from their internal tests on this stuff was apparently really positive.
Positive how? Was it just the accuracy or was it the feel of it?
It was the feel. Definitely the feel. Many users were genuinely astonished at the model's ability to show what they called kindness and humor. And here's the critical part. They did it without hurting the model's performance or usefulness. The intelligence didn't drop just because the model cracked a joke.
Which suggests the personality isn't just a filter they slapped on top of the logic engine.
It reinforces their claim that the tone settings are deeply integrated. This is the fusion they were going for, a blend of sophisticated emotional mimicry with that cold-hard logic. The personality is now intertwined with the reasoning. It lets the model decide how to present that stable, mature answer that Keen generates.
That's a staggering thought. A true digital partner.
It's getting there.
Okay, let's bring it all back and summarize the 3 key takeaways for you as you start exploring GPT 5.1. First, there's that corrective step. The foundational speed and smoothness that fixes those nagging problems from the last generation.
Second, that dual model approach with a heavy focus on the adaptive, deep, logical analysis inside Keen. It knows when to think hard and when to be fast, solving that big speed versus accuracy problem.
And third, the unprecedented personality and tone control. You now have the power to customize the entire feel of the conversation, whether you need a friendly assistant, a professional coworker, or even that sarcastic co-writer.
So if you look at the big picture here, what does this aggressive push towards personalized, emotionally aware AI really mean? If the ultimate goal is not just to be smart, but to perfectly mirror your personality or the exact context you need to be friendly or effective or even sarcastic with precision, it raises a profound question. What does it mean for the future of professional communication when the most sophisticated tool you have is the one that best blends cold, reliable logic with precise emotional mimicry? That's something to think about as you start your own conversations with the new 5.1 models.